So many of you who may have encountered the most amazing woman who, once you meet her, you'll never be the same. Her name is Anana Harris Paris. I had the pleasure of meeting her in 2015 at a retreat with Octavia Rahim. And Octavia Rahim was the first person I saw, first Black female I saw teaching yoga and making a living from teaching yoga. She taught me the restorative properties and healing practices that yoga offers, and that transformed my life. And then the person who introduced me to Octavia Rahim is one of our first inaugural Self Care Day Award recipients and literal badass of Charlotte, North Carolina, holding it down and expanding her ways is Keisha Battles. And if you don't know, you need to know her. But that path, I have to connect the dots backward and honor the sources of my own personal transformation, because that's what we do. That's what we do to honor people. Anana, if you would be so wonderful and give us the reasons why you felt to start the service of proclamation. What is the substantial piece about declaring it in partnership with government?
I think that what I realized is the activism I was a part of that was fairly significant, also being raised in an activist household. I did not understand how serious the connection was, whether you're talking about maternal mortality or just mental health in general. I did not understand the connection until I went through my own personal traumatic experience with my childbirth. And as a result of that, I woke up out of it and I said, oh no, I get it now. I had to endure, because of not being respected in this session of what they say, the medical industrial complex. I had to endure a C-section where the epidural didn't work. And for them to complete the process, they held me down and they focused on his life. And I don't even know how I recovered from it. But that didn't happen in a vacuum. And every time I started telling my story, and every time I launched this movement in a way where I shared it, someone else said the same thing happened to them. And this was in 2010. So this has been going on for some time. And what I realized that unless we politicize this notion of self-care, until we begin to look at it as revolutionary, until we start to see that there are payrolls, as I said earlier, that are based off of our critical needs not being addressed, until we really have a conversation with politicians to undergird the existing movement of reproductive justice. Abel Mabel Thomas for being a part of the early and inaugural convening, where she convened the team to really coin the term reproductive justice. But there are all these other movements around what boils down to, will there be political attention around how well we are able to care for ourselves, how much the community supports us in our own self-care? And that's what this is a bridge of. When we document it, we're not just saying, hey, hello, over here, this is important. We're also saying, when I'm not here anymore, that government-based document will be cemented as something that we said was important when our children and our children are here. That is the reason why in 2011 that the first one needed to be established, stand on the shoulders of so many other activists for this prior to me. So I am definitely not the originator of self-care being important, but my calling is mine, and I'm just grateful that it has branched off in the way that it has.
And Anana, for that, I am eternally grateful. I will say the city of Charlotte is eternally grateful. And on this day, Mecklenburg County is eternally grateful for you owning your calling, stepping into your leadership, and blessing me, my world, and those of my circle of impact and influence. So now to localize this event. I've written and submitted the proclamation, and thank you to our government officials, George Dunlap, Mark Jarrell, and Susan Harden for being in support of this effort. We wrote this proclamation and timed it so well because Mecklenburg has declared with a proclamation that was submitted in July that racism is a health crisis. And because of that proclamation, it inspired me to work with government in declaring Self-Care Day to complement the efforts of Mecklenburg County to make significant changes and movement structurally to undoing the harm that we know racism and white supremacy does to communities of color. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mark Jarrell and have George Dunlap later than read the proclamation for self-care. But Mark, would you please introduce the impetus for the proclamation that was written about racism being a health crisis?
Yeah, sure, Jasmine. And thank you so much for having me and having us today on this really, really important occasion. And to Anana, I just want to say, when the sisters call, the brothers come running. So you shouldn't be surprised. But the proclamation we did, racism as a public health crisis, declaring racism as a public health crisis. The impetus really was that, we knew that multiple studies showed that essentially being Black in America is bad for your health, and pervasive racism is the cause. And so when you look at health inequities in particular, at their very core, they're due to racism. And so we also know that racial health disparities don't just affect poor African Americans, but they also cross socioeconomic lines. So a business suit, a degree, a title don't work as protection for people of color or Black people. And Black women are up to 4 times more likely to die of pregnancy-related complications than white women. We see Black men twice as likely to be killed by police. The average life expectancy of African Americans is 4 years lower than the rest of the U.S. population. So the proclamation was really meant to spur changes across all sectors of government. And so if you look at issues such as criminal justice, education, healthcare, housing, transportation, economic development, social services, our goal is really to shrink that health gap between African Americans, people of color, and white Americans. And so COVID-19 really highlighted a lot of those disparities that many people have been talking about for a long time. And, a health crisis coupled with an economic crisis, you could really see the disparate outcomes for Black people, people of color, and most of those can be directly tied to health and the social determinants of health. So the declaration is just an important first step in the movement to advance racial equity and justice. And so you have 2 of my colleagues here that you'll hear from them, but one, Professor Hardin, who really wordsmithed it for us and is always that level of architect. And of course, George Dunlap being the chair, we can't get anything shepherded through without his leadership. And so I'm just really privileged to be on with both of them because they were extremely instrumental along with the rest of our colleagues in getting this done for the community. So that was the impetus, and thank you for the time. And I'm just excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your leadership and commitment and service to the people of Mecklenburg County. Thank you so much. Susan, will you talk a little bit about why you're in support of this movement?
I will, and actually, I'll let you know that I am simultaneously broadcasting in my classroom right now. So, as many of you know, I'm a professor at UNC Charlotte, and I teach students how to be community leaders and put them in nonprofits and organizations across the community. And right now, we're actually holding class, and I was like, well, if this isn't a lesson in civic engagement and change, I don't know what is. So. Anyway, so I can just tell you that this county commission is all about addressing racial disparity. It's our #1 priority And I don't know that any governmental body has ever, or at least anyone that I've ever read, declared that as their number one priority. And so I'm really proud of the work that this commission has done in just terms of seeing and actively working towards addressing racism in our community. And so we were thrilled to, and I've been a fan of Jasmine for a very, very, very long time. And so I was honored to be both personally and professionally. So I was honored to be asked to, co-sponsor this proclamation. And so thank you for, all the work that you're doing to loosen and change things that have long time needed to be changed. Thank you for continuing to push our local governments to do the right thing. And I'll let my esteemed colleagues, Commissioner Dunlap, read the proclamation.
Thank you, Susan.
Well, good morning again. Before I get started, I do want to make a couple of comments. First of all, I will tell you that the two colleagues of mine, Mark and Susan, are part of the reason why I'm out front all the time, because they continue to push me. They have pushed me to the limits. They've allowed me, or should I say, they have stretched me. I have, people don't really know this about me because I'm such a fun-loving guy, but I am more of a traditionalist. I'm more conservative. And these two guys are more progressive. And it was so interesting that when I filled out this survey to be endorsed by this organization and they didn't endorse me, I say, well, I guess I'm not progressive enough. But I will tell you that I have learned what being progressive is, and I'm moving more in that direction. The second thing I will tell you is that when the screen opened up, the picture in the center was Anani. And I didn't know who she was. I didn't see anybody's name, but I will tell you that infectious smile on her face said to me, she is somebody important. And when she began to speak, it became clear, just whatever it was, I don't know, but there was a spirit that says that this is somebody that's important. I wanna thank my colleagues for giving me the opportunity to speak on their behalf and for the support that they provide for the things that we do in Mecklenburg County. I will tell you that I've served both on the state level and on the national level in our association. And I can't think of a board that has been more forward thinking when it comes to issues of racism, issues of education, issues of eliminating racial and ethnic disparities within our communities, whether they're health disparities or other disparities. And I so appreciate the support that they provide to me. And it's with that support that we accepted the wording of this proclamation, which I'd like to present to you at this time. And so for those of you who don't get to see it, it is pretty nicely done. And it says Mecklenburg County, North Carolina Proclamation. And I will tell you, I'm struggling. I don't know whether to put my glasses on or take them off, but I can't see without them. Okay. Mecklenburg County, North Carolina Proclamation. Whereas the Empower Agency, LLC, and Sister Care Alliance joined forces in 2016 to co-author proclamation declaring December 4th the Inspire Agency and Sister Care Alliance Self-Care Day, signed by then Mayor Jennifer Roberts, as a way to promote the principles of self-care for the purpose of nurturing healthy lives and relationships for individuals, families, and communities. And whereas the Inspire Agency, LLC, and Sister Care Alliance strategically aligned with community partner Amplify and Activate in 2017, a nonprofit 5013 social justice advocacy organization promoting yoga as a form of social justice and self-care to broaden alliances with self-care ambassadors who are choosing to focus on enhancing lives and promote wellness and social justice through participation in their own self-care, education awareness workshops, physical activities, mental and emotional awareness activities, and promote and cultivation of social and cultural events. And whereas the importance of Self-Care Day focuses on the great need for individuals, families, and communities to encourage, to inspire, and empower themselves with tools and resources that support empowering and integrating the categories of care as automatic conditions into the lives of its citizens by learning a sustained and habitual awareness of caring for oneself to practice the art of prioritization and healthy options for self-care in lieu of unhealthy alternatives or options for escaping stress that have long-term consequences, including but not limited to damaging relationships in families and communities. And whereas promotion of self-care is an important tool in building self-esteem for individuals, those suffering with or from depression, domestic violence and abuse, physical and psychological trauma, as well as race-based stress trauma. In the case of youth who face chronic challenges due to bullying, body image, and stressful home and community life, promotion of self-care as a long-term strategy, which encourages strength and self-advocacy to to reach out for existing support and services in a way that directly correlates to creating positive outcomes that complement the Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners' efforts to recognize racism as a public health crisis as per the proclamation on the 16th of June, signed by Chair George Dunlap. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mecklenburg Board of County Commissioners hereby proclaim Friday, December 4th, 2020, as the Inspire Agency Amplify and Activate and Sister Care Alliance Self-Care Day in Mecklenburg County, and encourages all citizens to join in the special observance and encourage all to spend this day taking care of themselves spiritually, emotionally, economically, artistically, physically, emotionally, and socially. Signed this 4th day of December, George Dunlap, Chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, Mecklenburg County. Thank you.
Everybody come off your mics and let's celebrate that together.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. 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 Woo. I didn't realize I would embody this alignment. I call tears. I'm really, really grateful. Yes, Nikki. Yes, we did it. We did it. George, thank you so much. Thank you, Susan Harden. And thank you, Mark Jarrell, for having the foresight, for pushing through the resistance that exists in this community to fight for Black people in this community to thrive. Thank you very much.
You are so welcome.
Shout out to Lee.
Our pleasure.
The board of Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. Appreciate your stewardship of our youth. So thank you all, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.